Now,
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:06 now on this Monday morning. We're up and rolling. The storm's behind us, and we are charging into this week with fervor and energy and inspiration. And can I take a nap? Can I just... Julie Gunlock is with us, and at 6:35 we'll be joined by Denisha Allen, American Federation for Children. 7:05 Joe DeGeneva. 7:35 the legendary Trevor Maddich. At 8:05 Rich Anderson, chair of the Republican Party in Virginia. And then at 8:35 Julie Perry. She's running for state senate in Fairfax County. That's all coming up. Julie, we all, you work and live in Washington, D.C. You know people who don't agree with you politically. You have friends that are Democrats. Sometimes you have to work with people who are Democrats and liberals, right? We try to get along.
I'm surrounded.
Yeah, you are. In Fairfax. Well, what you want to do
Alexandria.
when you get back to Alexandria, when you see your most favorite liberal Democrat friend, give him a hug today. You want to show a little sympathy.
Yeah.
Because that sound you hear right now across the entire D.C. area, it's 6:07 this Monday morning, is the sound of Democrats' heads exploding as they look at the Washington Post and see the results of their latest Washington Post ABC News poll. Head-to-head.
MAGA publications.
Oh,
right?
yeah, these are crazy right-wing MAGA country kind of ABC News and Washington Post. Head-to-head matchup between Trump and Biden. Trump is now beating Biden by 10 points.
It's like the Commander's Bills. Oof.
Not only by 10 points, but Trump is now registering over 50% in the national polls. Now, listen, we don't elect presidents via national election. We know that. The state by state is going to tell a bigger story. But I assure you, generally speaking, when a Republican wins the White House, he loses the national vote. I mean, it's been that way since, I think, 2004. So the fact that he's beating Biden, not just by 10 points, but actually registering over 50%, this is a freaking disaster.
The other sound you hear is sort of the Trump forces sort of screeching their brakes, because these are the people who are like, you can't believe the polls. This morning they're like, oh, heck yes.
Except this one. Not only do you can't believe the polls, but we don't care about national polls.
Right, exactly.
Well, maybe this one. According to the Washington Post, by the way, this is an outlier. Wait, the Washington Post is saying that? Doesn't who's calling it an outlier?
I don't know.
Do we know? All right, we'll look for that. Somebody referred to it as an outlier. I'll give you. Oh, here it is. No. Oh, it was the Washington Post. The sizable margin. They're undermining their own poll.
That's hilarious. Of course
they're undermining their own poll.
Of course they are.
The sizable margin of Trump's lead in this survey is significantly at odds with other public polls that show the general election contest is a virtual dead heat. The difference between this poll and others, as well as the unusual makeup of Trump's and Biden's coalitions in the survey, suggest it is probably an outlier.
You're reading from the Washington Post. I just want you to take a moment to imagine the writer who is crying at their keyboard while writing that.
He keeps short-circuiting.
And then he occasionally turns around and goes, "It's okay, everyone. I got it."
Uses his inhaler.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Blue Velvet.
Understand this. This is after, over 100 charges levied against this guy in 4 different jurisdictions?
And you could hear that this weekend on some of the shows. You could hear some of the newscasts. This was on mainstream media saying things like, after all we've done,
right?
After everything we've done to prevent this,
the news in this poll gets even worse. Independents, who will make the difference in the election, of course, favored Trump 52 to 39%. It's one thing to say that the story of these polls is the just precipitous plummet of Joe Biden. But the fact that Trump keeps registering over 50% tells you, because undecided, some other candidate, those are options here.
Right.
But no, these are people that are not only rejecting Joe Biden, but affirming Donald Trump as the choice for president of the United States. Now, listen, it's September 25th. There's a whole lot of game to be played, over a year's worth of game to be played. And Lord knows the polls are going to be affected by the criminal trials that are laying ahead, as well as news events. Although the way this is going, if the poll reaction to the indictments are any indication, Trump could win by a 50-state landslide.
Right.
Because he has been, it's the news cycle for Donald Trump has been nothing but horrific. And he's now leading 52-42.
And we're seeing
in
this.
the Washington Post.
I know. But we're seeing this I've seen other polls, which I don't have in front of me right now, where it's just this sort of constant slow climb by Donald Trump in the polls. And I think it really is a bit of a underdog kind of feeling for the least, like Donald Trump doesn't seem like an underdog to me in any way, but he does have that. It evokes that feeling in people, I think.
Biden's approval rating sits at 37%. 56% of respondents actively disapprove of the presidency. 56% actively disapprove. That means like serious disapproval, right? He's also facing a crisis of confidence among his own party members. 60% of Democrats and Democrat-leaning respondents said they would prefer a different nominee. They cited his age, his handling of the economy, and the ongoing border crisis as problems with this administration.
The Democrats are handing us Donald Trump. They really are. Because people see this as you've got a choice. You've got a binary choice here when it comes to Election Day.
Yes, they do.
Because obviously Trump is way ahead by 40 points of every single other Republican.
Right.
And they're finding that other choice. That is how much people detest Joe Biden.
I've said it over and over again because, again, I'm not taking sides in the Republican primary, but if Donald Trump wins, and it certainly looks like he's going to get the nomination, he's got my vote because it is a binary choice.
Of course.
If the choice is between Biden and Trump, or Trump and any Democrat, I can imagine a Democrat they could put up there. Because here's the funny thing. The only name now that they're floating as an alternative is Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who is, I mean, literally a Batman villain. All right, not literally, he could very well be a Batman
villain. He is driving
villain.
people from California.
Yeah.
By the droves.
Right. Driving by the droves?
Sorry.
That's impressive. No, don't be at all, ever, for something like that. And by the way, I think that Gavin Newsom is, in fact, I think he's planning on running.
Oh,
in fact,
he vetoed that.
He had a move over
the
weekend that we'll tell you about coming up in a bit. He did something over the weekend, Gavin Newsom did in California, that is the surest sign that he wants the White House sooner rather than later, meaning what he did suggests that he's ready to run today. And we'll tell you all about that in a moment. And again, I do want to remind you, if you see a Democrat, just give them a hug. It's going to be a hard day for them today if their head hasn't already exploded.
2016 again.
Donald Trump, 52%. Joe Biden, 42%, according to the Washington Post.
It's here. Download the new WMAL app and listen anywhere you go, anytime you want.
So what did Gavin Newsom do over the weekend that is a sure sign that he is running for president? Well, he did something not crazy. He did something reasonable. He did something grown up, mature, adult. He did something that is completely logical and normal for any other human being.
He actually did something for families.
He did something for families and for parents. Yeah, he was handed a bill by the radical, insane, out-of-control California state legislature that, by the way, mirrors a bill that was proposed by Democrats in Virginia.
Thank you. Yes.
Which is if parents do not so-called affirm the gender selection of their children, then that child can be taken away from their
parents. It was expanding the definition of child abuse to include parents who do not want to agree to their 10-year-old getting puberty blockers or being permanent pharmaceutical patients, basically.
It was a Friday night. It was late into the evening. In fact, I didn't see it until Saturday morning because it was really late in California. He vetoed it. And this would have required judges to like judges can't even use their judgment about it. It would have required judges to remove custody of children from parents who don't affirm the child's gender. And and according to Gavin Newsom on Friday, who again is ready to run for president, that was a bridge too far. Now, if he were planning to run in 2028, he would have done it.
Oh,
he would have absolutely done it.
Absolutely.
This is a move of a man who's trying to keep his options open right now, today.
And you want to know who stopped that? Who made Gavin Newsom go? It's these parent groups that have stood up during COVID, because you know who was silent? Teachers. And you know who else was silent? The PTA. Okay. And all of these other so-called organizations that are there to stand up for parents and children were utterly silent during COVID, during the shutdowns, and then have now moved into this gender cult of demanding that everybody affirm this mutilization of children. And so I just think that he knew that these groups are out there. He knows that moms are now active, that parents are more active. He read the room, to put it in Northern Virginia terms.
Yeah, although, let me just say this, because before we get too excited about Gavin Newsom actually showing some display of sanity and reasonable attitude, I want to read the veto letter that he sent, because it is, frankly, this is the biggest problem with Gavin Newsom. He's now going to pretend, just like he did in that interview last week about abortion, where he said, well, you know, the state of California, we have a law.
And a bunch of people were fooled into thinking he's like a good guy on these issues.
He said, oh, no, we have a law here. It's about viability. Nobody wants late-term abortion.
Right.
No one wants abortion up to birth. Our law is that you can't have an abortion after viability, which is about 24 weeks. Although we did just have this constitutional amendment.
Yeah, but we're working out the
we're working out the language.
Yeah.
It has more nuance.
It's very complicated.
There's no nuance. The language of the constitutional amendment says that the government shall have no restrictions on a woman's right to reproductive health. That means there is no restriction on abortion.
And we know that's happening here. Talk to Kathy Tran.
Of course it is.
Who's a delegate from Northern Virginia.
So this is what actually makes him more dangerous than Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden, as you often like to say about his brain,
mashed potato brains.
Mashed potatoes for brains. Gavin Newsom is smart and he's evil. And so the headlines are Gavin Newsom vetoes bill that would have taken children from custody. Let me read this to you. I appreciate the passion and values that led the author to introduce this bill. I share a deep commitment to advancing the rights of transgender Californians, an effort that has guided my decisions through many decades in public office. That said, I urge caution when the executive and legislative branches of state government attempt to dictate in prescriptive terms that single out one characteristic, legal standards for the judicial branch to apply. Other minded elected officials in California and other states could very well use this strategy to diminish the civil rights of vulnerable communities. Here's the key part. Moreover, a court under existing law is required to consider a child's health, safety, and welfare when determining the best interest of a child in these proceedings, including the parent's affirmation of the child's gender identity. In other words, let's not just spell it out in the law. Right now, a judge is supposed to take things into account like health, safety, and welfare.
There you go.
Let's just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what health, safety, and welfare means. Let the judges do this without us having to extend our
You're absolutely right. It's a signal to the judges that you can use this discretion to yank children from their parents.
Right. And now he will get the headline that says he vetoed this. So it's not the law of California when he's running nationally. But the way the current law is being applied in California by the judges that Gavin Newsom appoints and endorses, 100% children will be taken away from their parents.
You know, you're absolutely right. And now my stomach aches back.
I'm sorry.
I thought that was a little ray of sunshine.
Yeah.
But
so it's a twofold double
It's actually
negative.
more dangerous.
It's worse now.
Yes.
And he's running for president.
Yes.
It's 6:21. Well, we have a development now in the writer's strike in Hollywood that has sort of crippled production for whatever your favorite show is at this point, if you've got one. You'll remember that the writers went on strike in early May. This had to do with their negotiations with the major studios, Disney, Paramount, Universal, Warner Brothers, and Discovery, who is in charge of a lot of the cable stations and reality shows. A lot of it had to do with the typical stuff that these things have to do with, but AI, artificial intelligence, was a big part of this too, looming over this whole thing. Same with the SAG-AFTRA strike, the actors' strike over this. Well, apparently the talks that had been on hold during this whole time resumed last week, and it looks like they've got a tentative deal now. We woke up with this news. The writer's strike might be coming to an end. They're still drawing up the final contract language, but they seem to be happy.
This has been the most wholesome month on television. Parents haven't had to worry.
They basically took an extended summer off. Although to be honest, in Hollywood, the writers they actually work over the summer so that you can get your fall shows. Anyway, what we have won in this contract is due to the willingness of this membership to exercise its power, to demonstrate its solidarity, and to walk side by side to endure the pain and uncertainty of the last 146 days. And, honestly, and I'm usually on writers' side on this, and I've got friends who are writers, but when you start using language like that, it's like there are auto workers right now who are on strike.
Right.
There
are people who cannot afford food. I don't care about these people. I don't care. And you know what? They put smut and filth and, woke. They have spewed their woke agenda on the American public for far too long. I don't care anything about this. I know.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about it then.
Well, I mean, that's fine. I know. I'm just saying I don't have any sympathy.
You don't have sympathy for either side.
Nope.
I get that. That. But it does have an effect on people's everyday lives if they, are interested in pop culture and the shows that they love. Like, for instance, I just got into Only Murders in the Building. It's a great show. And this season is about to end. And I'm going to be ready for the new season. And I want my writers on the job. Or I want the actors to work without. You don't care.
I don't care.
There's no smut in Only Murders in the Building. I mean, there's murder and a little sex. There's no nudity. There's Martin Short.
The filth that comes out of Hollywood, I don't care.
It's 6:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
Chugging along here, full speed ahead, getting you going into your week. Coming up at 7:05, Joe DeGenova will join us, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. 7:35, you think he'll have something to say about Bob Menendez and the whole Hunter Biden situation?
I think so.
At 7:35, Trevor Maddich on the Commanders. It was a close one there at FedEx against the Bills. It was close to a shutout. At 8:05, Rich Anderson, chair of the Republican Party of Virginia. And then at 8:35, Julie Perry. We talked about her on Friday. She's running for state senate. She's a teacher in Fairfax, and she was targeted by a school board member. Total abuse of power. Oh, and that school board member is also her opponent. So she'll get along with the Democrats in Richmond just fine. We'll talk to Julie Perry at 8:35. Right now, though, we're joined by, I love talking to Denisha Allen. She is the founder of Black Minds Matter, and she's with the American Federation for Children. What are you laughing about, Denisha? I do love talking to you. You know that. Good to talk with you.
Yeah, I know. It's great.
Thanks for
nice to talk to you, too. Good morning.
Well, we wanted to reach out to you because of this stunning report out of Baltimore where Project Baltimore, which monitors the academic achievements or lack thereof in the Baltimore City school system, reported that 13 Baltimore high schools had not one single student to score proficiently on this year's math exam. Out of 13 high schools, how many students must that be? A couple thousand per school. Not one person, Tanisha. Talk about this failed system and how most ironically and most importantly, it's students of color who are suffering the most.
You're right, Larry. And it's so disheartening because Project Baltimore, like you said, they've been doing some real investigative journalism, which does not happen often, first of all. And the last report that they had showed that of 23 schools, it was 10 high schools at the time that had 0 students test proficient in math. Now those numbers are up. It's up to 13 schools. And so that's where we really have to take a deeper look. And everybody, the entire country is now looking at Baltimore, because what happens in Baltimore, the reason why this is so important is because the way we handle Baltimore is really going to set the stage for how we handle other highly urban districts that have so many students that's lacking a quality education. We've seen state after state pass expansive school choice policies. North Carolina last week coming into the fold, providing universal education savings accounts for students. And so what we do by Baltimore students is really going to propel the education movement even further and show the country and show highly other urban districts what we should be doing. We should set the precedence for enacting more school choice policies in these places that's not doing well by kids.
I'm curious about the state of the school board in Baltimore. Are these people, have they, I'm not very familiar with the Baltimore school board. I do know that the head of schools in Baltimore makes almost $500,000 a year to destroy that school system. But I'm curious about the school board itself. Are these people, have they been in those offices for a long time? Are they facing tough re-elections? Are parents sort of standing up about this?
The school board, I'm not entirely sure, but the state superintendent is resigning.
Okay.
He's no longer going to run for office. He's no longer going to hold that position, and I feel like that's quite ironic because he's been known for redacting a lot of student test scores and forging numbers of student success rates. They're already doing poorly. And so, like, you can imagine right now we have 13 schools. How many kids are actually not proficient in reading and math because of all of the redactions? He's also been on the record for using his personal email and his personal phone for communicating with government officials and about government things, which is a no-go.
Yeah.
And so he's resigning this year. So hopefully we do get someone in office that's going to set a good leadership from the top down to create some good policies.
That's for
Governor
the state.
Westmore has, exactly. And so Governor Westmore has proposed to defund the Boost Scholarship in Maryland, which is only about $3,000. Which we can see in Baltimore that the average student is getting $22,000 in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So that scholarship is nowhere near what a kid, is getting in the public school system. We do need some good leadership.
It was a minor development into sort of breaching into the sort of wispy idea of school choice for parents, but it's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. It's a token. And even that Westmore wants to get rid of in Maryland because he's so beholden to these teachers' unions. The teachers' unions have had their run of the show in Baltimore City schools, and these are the results. The CEO of the Baltimore City Schools is Dr. Sonia Santelicisas. She earns close to $500,000 a year in total compensation and benefits, and she's been there since 2016. So it's not like she can blame her predecessor on this, but this is just failing upward and rewarding the same kind of failed option. So what if we could clean house in Baltimore and actually empower parents? What would you recommend? What is the solution? Because this is not just, let's put new procedures in place. They need emergency right now. They need to get their kids something, Denisha. What can they get? What should they do?
I think on every level, from leadership, from people who are, on the school board, we have so many moms that have actually stood up in the neighboring town like Virginia. That's where they set the precedent to stand up and to run for school board, to be on school boards. I think that's something that needs to happen in Maryland also, and especially in Baltimore. And then I think we need to empower, it would be so easy for the Chamber of Commerce, for the city, for the mayor to enact special programs to improve innovation in education. And I say that because we do need to have better learning options. Yes, we need the expansion of school choice, and we already know that. We already know what those policies look like. So I don't want to, sound like a broken record there. But there are some things that we can do around education entrepreneurship to encourage for more school leaders to create alternative learning environments for these students. Because once we do it, once we get past choice, where are they going to go? They need to be in high quality learning environments. And we know from across the country, especially in my work with Black Minds Matter, we have the first and the only directory of Black-owned schools, Black-founded schools. Many of these educators left the classroom. They left the public school system because they were frustrated and they couldn't help kids exactly how they wanted.
That's right.
So let's provide a pipeline for them to create some learning environments, some tutoring centers, after-school programs.
Agreed. This is a crisis in Baltimore, and the fact that it's not getting much coverage on mainstream outlets tells you. I mean, you talk about systemic racism, and in the media outlets that cover this area and Baltimore, they are ignoring this story. They're barely paying attention to it because they don't care. But we do. Denisha Allen, American Federation for Children, and also Black Minds Matter. Great website, great information there at Black Minds Matter, great activism, and you got a big heart. Denisha Allen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Julie.
You betcha. It is 6:44. Hey, remember how it was against the law to deny the results of an election?
I do.
Yeah. Chris Plant talks about this all the time, the phenomenon after World War II of these Japanese soldiers who were like in caves in the Philippines and Midway Island and stuff.
I had no idea
they didn't know,
yeah.
and they were ready to kill anybody that comes back because they thought the war was still going on. Right, years later they would find them. Hold up, that would be Hillary Clinton. That would be Hillary Clinton still obsessing over the 2016 election and in full election denial, my friends.
Vladimir Putin has obviously your friend.
This is On with Jen Psaki, by the way.
Friend and mine.
Yes, indeed.
He has intervened.
Actually, he is her friend. If you remember, when Jen Psaki worked for the State Department, she went there to Russia and she got her little pink Russian hat with the hammer and sickle on it.
That's right.
But now we don't like that guy. No, we don't. Oh, you're a friend and mine.
In our election in the past,
Right.
It's not something, as you experienced firsthand, it's not something we talk about a lot. Do you fear that is something that could be happening for 2024? And
It's not something we talk about a lot? I don't know. I remember 4 years of relentless daily Trump is an illegitimate president and was placed into office by Vladimir Putin.
Yep.
It's not something we talk about a lot, Julie. All right, I'm going to stop interrupting.
do you think we should be talking about it more?
Well, I think we should be talking about it more because I don't think, despite all of the, deniers, there's any doubt that he interfered in our election or that he has interfered in many ways in the internal affairs of other countries, funding political parties, funding, political candidates, buying off, government officials in different places. So that is his opus. His opus operandi in the sense that he hates democracy. He particularly hates the West, and he especially hates us. And he has determined that he can do two things simultaneously. He can try to continue to damage and divide us internally, and he's quite good at it. And sadly, he has a lot of apologists and enablers.
I'm no Putin fan, and I don't like the guy, and I want him gone. But he ain't the one dividing our nation, Hillary.
She just can't quit Putin.
No.
I'm telling you, she is. Those are 2018 talking points.
Yeah.
That woman has not moved on.
It gets worse.
Part of the reason he worked so hard against me is because he didn't think that he wanted me in the White House. So we are where we are, and part of the challenge is to continue to explain to the American public that, the kind of leader Putin is.
You've already explained it. We're not buying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she, by the way, she explained it in detail to James Comey and the FBI. They did buy it and then tried to cripple the Trump presidency. It's shocking that he got as much done as
Why aren't
he
we
did.
talking about Hillary Clinton being a traitor? She is a traitor.
I often say that Donald Trump should be praised for a lot of things that he did as president, but more than anything else, it was to get 3 justices on the Supreme Court that would finally send Roe v. Wade to the ash bin of history. I don't know if that's his greatest achievement. His greatest achievement may be keeping this woman from the White House. It really began on election night. It's 6:53.
Making sense of your world.
Thank you for what you do.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
You give me hope.
Making sense of the news.